It's beyond reasonable doubt that the climate crisis has wrought a destructive influence on the natural world. Carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere have skyrocketed, the oceans are warming, and there's been an increase in extreme weather events all over the world. Just recently, the UN announced that there's no way to reach our climate targets. We know what's happening, and we know that it's because of us. With the pollution in the atmosphere and the titanic volumes of plastic that are now littering the oceans and natural landscapes, it's certain that no other species have managed to corrupt their natural environment in such a short time as we have. That's not even to mention the oil spills, or the nuclear reactor meltdowns, or the millions of organisms that are under threat of extinction because of us. We need a solution, and it's clear that our current attempts to fix the climate with technological means are not working. We need a more radical solution, one that goes much deeper, and we can start with Arne Naess. Arne Naess was an influential figure in the environmentalist movements of the late 20th century, and his suggestion is that we need a radical change in our attitude toward the natural world. We should see human life as one component in a worldwide ecosystem, a species that works in tandem with the natural world, rather than against it. Thus, in addition to our current attempts to mitigate the effects of overpopulation, overconsumption, and resource depletion, we should seek to modify our beliefs about nature. Let's take a look at his work and the 8 principles to save nature. Naess argues that nature has inherent value. Nature is not some mechanistic substance, as it has been conceived in science for centuries, but rather nature is valuable in itself. This includes human and non-human cultures, species, and their activity in the natural world. All of these exist and have value, independent of their usefulness for human purposes. Naess argues that diversity of the life forms on Earth also have inherent value. Bacteria contribute as much to the diversity as humans, and we should see them all as inherently valuable, rather than as links on the evolutionary chain. All life forms have their role in the ecosystem of the Earth. Further, the existence of life, as a process that unfolds over evolutionary time, implies the existence of diversity. Naess argues that humans have no right to reduce this diversity other than to satisfy vital needs. Rights, as we understand them, are a fiction. Humans have no right over the natural world because it doesn't belong to us. However, there will be cases where the reduction of diversity is necessary for survival. Naess argues that the flourishing of non-human life requires a substantial decrease in the size of the human population. As it stands, human overpopulation has resulted in overconsumption and resource depletion. If the human population size continues this unsustainable increase, it'll have devastating effects on the ecosystem. Thus, Naess argues that we need to reduce population size to maintain balance of the ecosystem. Naess argues that human interference in the non-human world is excessive. This doesn't mean we need to cease our interference with the non-human world entirely. All organisms modify their ecosystems. The issue is the extent of our interference with the non-human world. We shouldn't interfere with the non-human world to the extent that the non-human world can't flourish. With the previous principles taken into account, policies must therefore be changed. These policies will affect basic economic, technological, and ideological structures in society. As it stands, there's only a faint resemblance between sustainable economic growth and the current economic policies in industrial societies. When politicians talk about sustainable, this usually means sustainable for humans, and not sustainable for nature. We need to change our policies on a worldwide scale. Further, on the ideological front, we need to shift from increasing the standard of living to increasing the quality of life. The term quality of life is sometimes criticized for being vague, but that's actually its strength. Naess argues that there's no such thing as absolute morality, and that we should redefine morality in relative terms. Good and evil are not absolute concepts, but are sensitive to the context of the culture in which they're used. Without this relational conception, the concepts are totally meaningless. If we want to understand a culture that's different from our own, we should seek to understand them from within, rather than forcing our culture's morality onto them. Likewise, if we want to raise the quality of life for all human and non-human life, we should seek to understand what that means, sensitive to the context. Finally, if the principles we've outlined sound sensible, then one has an obligation to implement the changes. There's ample room for different opinions about priorities here. What should be done first? What should be done next? Which of the principles is the most urgent? Which of the principles is necessary, and which of them is only desirable? There's loads of interesting and important philosophical discussion to be had on these points. But the message to take home is not whether these questions should be asked at all, but which one should be asked first. In the end, our response to the climate crisis all comes down to the relationship between humankind and nature. As it stands, the attitude that humankind has toward nature is one of domination, where we're separate from and above nature. However, if we're to fix the problems that we caused, we need a radical restructuring of our beliefs. More science and more technological developments can't change our attitude, but perhaps the right set of ethics can. As we've seen, Naess argues that if we can replace our current attitude with something like these principles, then we can radically change how we view ourselves in relation to nature. We should see the world not as something for us to exploit, but rather something that we should strive to protect and live in harmony with. We will achieve that one day. I'm confident we will. I hope we will. Thank you very much for watching, peace and love, and I'll see you in the next video.